What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood. I am Brian London. Follow us on all of the socials. Oh, Cam threw up the U. Okay, I'll throw up the U. We are both alums of the University of Miami. Brandon is lurking in the background somewhere every once in a while when he's not, dining with the staff at Alabama or hanging out with other coaches somewhere else. He'll maybe pop on or feed us info or give us some insight, but he's hob-knobbing. He's too hotty-toddy to join us on the air every week. So we'll just have to cherish him when he is here, whenever that is. But Cam, we've got since we recorded the last podcast, so much has happened at the University of Miami. Like, so much has happened. I can't even get a list of it all. But I guess we'll start with, we did talk the last episode about having to make a change at defensive coordinator with Lance Guidry, and lo and behold, Mario, maybe within seconds of us uploading the episode, did make a change at defensive coordinator. Lance Guidry is out, and it is a fellow, as you put it, fellow masshole of mine, Mr. Corey Hetherman, that is now in at defensive coordinator for the University of Miami. He comes to us from Minnesota. He was at James Madison before that. He's coached at a bunch of places, had a stop at Rutgers with Greg Schiano. He spent a lot of time at small schools in the Northeast. He's really made his way up the ranks, but every stop that he's been on, he's had wonderful defenses. So you can't question that. Although Cam will tell you that when this first happened, I was like, where's the bright, shiny object? I was looking for the bright, shiny object, and we got Corey Hetherman. He's great, but he's not a bright, shiny object. And Cam was all over me. So your thoughts are, Cam, did we do okay?
Yeah, I was all over you because you're like, yeah, I want a name, the bright, shiny object, the new toy kind of a thing.
Yes.
And it was also timing-wise, both of the big moves that have happened since we last recorded, swear to you, happened like 15 minutes after we were like, cool, see you guys later.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
The player and coach movement happened very, very shortly after we ended that recording. But yeah, I do think that Miami did well here with Corey Hetherman. This is a guy who has worked his way up, and he's done it fairly quickly, but this is not a guy who was like born on third base. It was just like, okay, yeah, I was a all-pro player. I just go and I coach, and no, he got it from the mud, man. And it's close to my heart because he, like I, has an education degree. He has a degree in secondary education and fancies himself as a teacher first.
Yep.
And has done that. And you remember last year, similarly, Lance Guidry went viral for talking about his time coaching high school and how that taught him how to connect with players, how to coach, how to develop young men and players. And every outlet in the world took that video from that presser, aggregated it, wrote about it, opined on it, all those different kind of things. But having that foundation of teaching is really, really important. And we saw that because I really, truly believe either you coach it or you allow it, whether you're teaching or whether you're coaching sports, whatever it is. And last year, especially with the play in the secondary, it was either coached to be inferior or allowed by lack of teaching, lack of connecting, and redirecting the behavior. And this is somebody who, is trained in that with, a secondary ed degree, and has worked his way up in all these places. My eyes lit up when you were going through his resume, talking about his time at James Madison, award-winning time. Yeah, he was the FCS. This is when James Madison was FCS. They were playing for a national championship and then transitioned to D1. That's when Corey Hetherman was there and won the award as the best assistant in the FCS ranks for his time and that defense that got them to the national championship game. Right.
Yeah.
So that, you coached linebackers in that bowl game at Rutgers. That we played them a couple of years ago. Hetherman was their linebackers coach. So he's worked for several D1 coaches. You got Kurt Signetti, Greg Schiano, and most recently PJ Fleck. And the thing that I love and that I spoke about the last time that we were here, Miami will go hire people away from their good jobs. Corey Hetherman got an extension and a basically 100% raise in December from Minnesota. PJ Fleck was like, yo, had him on about $400,000, $450,000. And he got a contract that was $865 to $1 million or more, like immediately doubled the salary and an extension. And even with that, he was like, thanks, PJ. I'm gonna hop on a PJ, that private jet, and make my way down to South Florida. Like, I think this is a good job, even if it's not necessarily a household name. He's an upward mobile coach who has done well at every level. And when you start coaching in D3, brother, you are making chicken salad out of chicken. You know what I mean? Like, you have to really be able to coach. And I think this is somebody who has that. And he's just intense and focused. I saw, people, I think it was Mike Cugno put up the picture of him in the presser with the, caption, "We're going to be aggressive." There were so many content creators I saw who quoted that. They're like, looking at him, I believe him. Like, oh my God, he has that presence. And I love that. And I want to be physical. And that's what he coaches and preaches. So let's see it happen.
Yeah, he is. Listen, but he may be behind the scenes, behind closed doors. He may have a great sense of humor and be affable and what have you, and friendly and cuddly wuddly. But if we're gonna go by press conferences, he is not a joke. He is singularly focused on being physical, being fast, swarming, and doing it right. Right? He talked about, listen, X's and O's don't matter right now. What matters is technique right now. And you know what? Like, people will talk about Minnesota, and when you really look at it, I mean, what was the best conference this year was the Big Ten. They played a lot of great teams, and he did a very good job against a lot of good football teams. I think he, listen, we can't singularly go by rankings because the last guy had one of the highest ranked defenses, and then he came here and it didn't go to the same. But certainly, what Corey Hetherman was able to do at Minnesota should be recognized as a great job. And he's consistently, Cam, taken a unit that has really underperformed and turned it around very quickly. He's done that over and over again in his career. And that's something that needs to be done here.
Right. And that also is one of the bigger traits. We've seen people go places, have that year of turnover, and then slowly build into something that has longevity and that kind of performance. It has not taken Corey Hetherman long to go in and be like, cool, we're going to flip this around right now. Go look at Minnesota's rankings on defense this past year. More interceptions than touchdowns allowed. They were a very good rush defense. In our group chat, me, Beast, and Brandon, we were talking about the Iowa game. Iowa did run for almost 300 yards against them, but also Minnesota lost the turnover battle like -2 or -3, and 3 of Iowa's scoring drives were 52 yards or less. And that's going to be tough when you're consistently put in that spot. Right. And again, that's a team that really specializes in that brand of physicality. And look, sometimes it's going to happen. Even when we were hiring Mario Cristobal, everybody was talking about, well, Utah that last year that he was at Oregon ate their lunch twice. They punched them in the mouth at the point of attack. It's like, yeah, but look at the previous years. Like, Utah had built themselves up for some retribution because Mario's previous teams to that whipped them bad up front, punched them in the mouth, and finally Utah was able to get back. But then, when he's coming here, it was like, oh, well, you can't beat Utah. Didn't beat Utah that year, but that was a cycle that took years for Utah to finally get up there. And so, I mean, it wasn't a perfect job because no one is perfect, but yeah, I'm really excited to see what Hetherman does. And the thing that he really preached about that I really need to see, and it was given this topic lip service this last year, communication on defense. Yeah. It was always, well, we're going to communicate better. And then there was insert player here, a whirling dervish at the 35-yard line while some opposing receiver is walking into the end zone, basically backflips and cartwheels because there's nobody around him. It was said that the communication was going to be there last year. It was not. And hopefully this is a thing that is foundational to how things work with the Corey Hetherman defense moving forward here at Miami.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So Corey Hetherman is now leading the defense. Yep. And basically we had Chevis Jackson leave. We've had Joe Salavea leave. And now we find out today, we're recording this Thursday afternoon, that D-Nick is off to Missouri. So the only person left on the defensive staff is Jason Taylor. And I think I would have told you weeks ago, if I had to guess, who would be the one coach that would stay because they've been basically now become attached to the hip of Mario Cristobal, and that's Jason Taylor. If you talk to people, Mario's really come to value JT's presence, all of his experience playing, obviously at the highest levels of football, NFL, Pro Football Hall of Fame levels of football. That's invaluable to have inside the building, and also he's really a great teacher. You talk about teaching, and has that ability to translate what he did on the field playing to coaching. So JT, I think, sticks around no matter what. But now Corey Hetherman's going to have to really hire a staff. I would not be surprised if he brought Nick Monroe, who was his co-DC, but his quarterbacks coach, down from Minnesota. Also, probably you think that Hetherman coaches linebackers as well as is your coordinator, because that's what he's been known for throughout most of his career. By the way, another guy in Hetherman, Cam, that was an offensive player. I think he was a quarterback in college and is more successful coaching the other side of the football, which I always kind of love that whole thing, right? I remember, talking to Al Golden about, hey, you were a tight end and now you're coaching defense. And he's like, that's just, when I was young, I fell into defense, blah, 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 blah. Here we are. So what do you see for rounding out the rest of the staff? And are you sad about any of the losses on the defensive staff?
I mean, the one I thought maybe would be D-Nick. I was thinking, I was pretty sure that Jason Taylor was going to be kept around. Thought maybe Derek Nicholson also. But also then looking at it, I'm like, so then is Hetherman not going to coach a position or whatever? And that was kind of that. He's the one. Chavis Jackson, I mean, Guidry, look, he worked previously with Guidry at Marshall when they had the #1 passing defense in America. So to fix things. After Jamil Adai went to the NFL to coach for the Bills, he's like, cool, I'm going to go call my homie who I previously worked with. So when when Guidry was let go, it was a foregone conclusion that, Chavis Jackson was going to follow him out also. And Joe Salavea, good guy and everything. I've been questioning some of his impact on the coaching, process for a while, actually, coaching and recruiting, to be perfectly honest. So, seeing him go back, to his alma mater at Arizona, the way that Mario is at his alma mater, I think that fits, and it creates space for new voices, new faces, and maybe a little bit more youth among the staff. So yeah, I'm not really upset about any of the departures. I mean, save Nicholson, who I think can coach and will be a very good coach. But obviously, our new defensive coordinator coaches the same position. So redundancy needs to, unfortunately be downsized. So yeah, but I am confident that we'll get who we need. And just like Miami hired Corey Hetherman away from a very nice job, I don't have any, doubt that we'll be able to hire other, the position coaches that we need or want away from other jobs as well.
This whole thing that Miami will spend money and do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
To us old heads, it's a new thing, right? Like, because it used to be like, oh, well, that SEC school or that Big Ten school is going to outspend Miami to get a coach. Mm-hmm. And now Miami is like, oh, okay, you give Corey Hetherman, you double his salary, that's fine. We'll take that, push that aside, and give him more and bring him to Miami.
And also provide him with a championship caliber roster that respectfully has higher caliber of players and recruits and a better recruiting ground and all those things. Yeah. So we provide all those ancillary fringe benefits as well to the, top line compensation and the ability to compete for championships, which, respectfully for a Minnesota team, which like their ceiling is probably top 6, maybe 5th in their conference.
Right.
The path forward is much clearer at Miami. So yeah, we'll go and do that. And look, we did it with Josh Gaddis. We did it with Kevin Steele. We did, we have gotten coaches away from other jobs, especially in the assistant pool, many a time. So yeah, I'm very confident that that'll happen again.
By the way, when Corey Hetherman got up there for the press conference and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, well, there's a fellow mask guy, looks pasty white, hasn't seen anything outside of snow and cold for his entire life, like coming down here. And I started worrying about, hey, can he recruit South Florida? Right? Because, he's not the guy that you expect to walk into, with an insert amazing South Florida high school here and get the kids. But, you start reading up and listening to his press conference and talking to people. He's been recruiting. He's been down here recruiting for years. He knows the landscape, and he learned a lot. I mean, if there was anyone that was kind of an outsider looking in and really made their way down here to South Florida is Greg Schiano, and he learned from him about how valuable it is to make connections down here in South Florida. So I'm not really worried about him looking like he hasn't seen sun in years coming down here to South Florida and recruiting.
I'm not concerned, but I also I want to see what he does when it goes from the engagement of recruiting Florida at northern schools is different than when you're like here. You know what I mean? So when you come down every once in a while and you look for, respectfully, again, those tier 2 level South Florida recruits, which are still guys who go and start other places, by the way. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you're just scraping the bottom of the barrel or anything, but you're not necessarily engaging with the All-Americans from Booker T or Chaminade or St. Thomas, the West, Central. You're recruiting there, but the superstar guys are coming by and saying, hey, what's up, coach? And then they go to the gym or their weightlifting class, while the fringe kind of players are the ones that you're focused on. I want to see how he's able to scale that up when it's, no, I'm here talking to you, All-American from Chaminade, you, superstar from St. Thomas Aquinas, you, amazing player from Miami Central or Northwestern, you from, or Booker T. You know what I mean? Like, you're going into these areas and not just getting who you can, but getting the guys that everybody wants. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, but part of that has to do with what's the emblem on his jacket when he walks into that building. Does it get recognized over, a golden gopher?
Right. No, I believe that the logo does play a factor, but also like it was exclusionary, like the previous logos. Like you can only, like, there are guys that you could not recruit. Years ago, I wrote a piece comparing, for stateoftheu.com, by the way, comparing Miami and Alabama on the recruiting trail, because they had gone head to head a lot through a 5 or 6 year period. And actually, Miami recruited against them fairly well on the head-to-head players. The caveat I put in there is there was a whole list of guys who went to Alabama who ignored Miami's phone calls, who took that, those mailers that sent straight into the trash, right? And I think that, Corey Hetherman at these northern schools was in that same kind of a way. Yeah, he got some guys and built some relationships at some schools and things like that, but he wasn't really able to engage with those top level guys because he was at these other schools. So now that he's here and has the logo, has the brand to go in there, be like, yo, I'm at the U. I want to see how he's able to leverage that in a positive way with the upper end guys who respectfully would not pay him or the other schools the time of day. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you. No, I feel you. I feel you on that. You got to, by the way, check out Cam and his staff do a great job at stateoftheu.com. Cam is the managing editor, and I was on there today. Some amazing good reads if you're into that, and it's free.
Always free, always open. Please come on over and fan with us. Got a great contributing staff. And the last piece that went up, we have one video breakdown of a Corey Hetherman defense already. The second one goes up tomorrow, which is a game that I haven't seen any other outlet breakdown, so you're welcome for that. Also, there's a piece about the Atlantic Coast Conference instituting their own playoff, but for their championship of their conference. So what would that look like? How would that work? I'm not going to tell you anything else, because you need to go read it. Stateoftheu.com. Check it out.
I did see that. I clicked on it, but I was like, okay, I don't have time. I got to prioritize the Hetherman stuff and what have you. But I did bookmark that to go back and read later. I don't even comprehend what that is, but listen, you caught my attention with the headline. So I will be back to read that article written by Robert Weaver, I believe, on the stateoftheu.com. So go check out stateoftheu.com. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to leave the defense and go over to the offense. Why? Because Miami has a new quarterback. Oh, yeah. We managed to pull that off 3 minutes after we taped the last episode, too. So we will talk about Carson Beck and his impact. That and more coming your way on the other side. You're listening and watching the Real Ones Canes podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood. He is managing editor for State of the U. You can follow him on X at Underwood Sports. Always a great follow. I am Brian London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. I have no other allegiances or entities that I can claim, but, there's that. So, Cam actually does other stuff besides just yell at me for over or underestimating defensive coordinator hires.
Right.
We need to get into the other addition, the other huge addition to the University of Miami football program. It comes via the transfer portal. And listen, I need to put this out there before we go there. Okay. So there's a huge asterisk on this conversation. No one is Cam Ward. Okay. We need to put that out there. It's whatever quarterback you're going to bring up in whatever conversation you have in the future, they are not Cam Ward. Okay. We just need to throw that out there.
And thank you for setting the stage, because we are going to talk, I believe, positively about the next quarterback coming in. But he's not Cam Ward. So even with saying things he can do and everything, again, guys, we just watched the single best quarterback in the history of Miami Hurricanes football. Whether it was Cam Ward, De'Aaron King, Tyler Van Dyke, or anybody else, the next person is not necessarily going to be the record breaker. The bar has been set again, and we are now going to have somebody who can chase that, but they are not the same. So
that is correct.
That is the caveat. That is the framing of the conversation we're going to have about your new quarterback in mind, Carson Beck, which again was entirely necessary after seeing what was in the room with Emory Williams in the second half of that bowl game. And I know that Mario Cristobal at the presser for Corey Hetherman, he took the first half hour and was like, we're going to talk about some things. And he said, the narrative of Cam Ward abandoning this team in the second half of that ball game is bullshit. That's his word, not mine. Excuse me. My language.
No, you're good.
Or his language, I should say. Because the plan was showcase Cam Ward again. He got the, passing touchdowns career record also for, across all divisions. That's great. And then let's turn the ball over to the other guy and see what we have for next year. And what we have for next year is a guy who cannot start here. I'm sorry. I write recruiting notebooks for every single player that we sign every single year on stateoftheu.com. There's a good little story stream so you can have all the recruiting content at signing day. And that means I've written one for Emory, I've written one for Judd, and I've written one for Luke Nickel. Luke Nickel is a guy that I believe is severely underrated, terribly underranked as a three-star. And this is a kid on a 25-game win streak to end his high school career, 2 state championships. One is the underdog, where he went through and ran through every single favorite. And then this past year, they were the big dogs, beat everybody down, including Antoine Hill, who won the Player of the Year at the Navy All-American Bowl. Couldn't do anything in comparison to Luke Nickel on the same field on the same day in the state semifinals to win another state championship. And now he's coming down. That's a guy who can play here, but maybe not this year. But with those 3 guys, Judd and Emory being the other 2 on top of Luke, in this room, we had to go get somebody. And for the second year in a row, Mario Cristobal went out there and got the best quarterback in the portal to come on down to, South Beach and join this team. And a guy who's thrown for 7,500 yards, 56 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions in 2 years, I think that that's pretty good. And I know that the turnovers are going to be the thing that Brian and everybody are going to bring up, because Carson Beck did turn the ball over too much last year.
Why am I taking strays?
No, because I know that that's what you're going to say. He had 12 interceptions last year. He did. You weren't going to say, I'm sorry, I put words in Brian's mouth. But
correct. This
is a guy with he was great as a recruit. He threw for Mark Richt back when Mark Richt was coaching. That's how long he was in college, by the way.
Yeah.
And Mark Richt said, no, thank you. We're not going to offer you a scholarship. It goes to Georgia. Did that. And now he comes here, later on in his development. This is a guy who can win. And in my eyes, the last time on the last episode of this here podcast, I said going into this offseason, my view of the team was 7-5, prove me wrong, which includes getting a quarterback and everything else. I think in this same spot last year, I was at 7-5, prove me wrong. You go and add Cam Ward. I said, cool, we're at 11. I thought Cam Ward was a 3.5, 4-win player. I'll just himself adding in. I think Carson Beck is probably like a 2.5, 3-win player. I think that 9-3, 10-2, and competing towards an ACC championship is fully within the realm of possibilities for him and this team. So I do think that the floor has been raised, and this is a guy who's been there on the big stage, and I'm excited to see what he can do when he gets back on the field.
Yeah, listen, I agree with everything you just said. One, you needed a quarterback. Nothing against Emory. I appreciate what he did against Clemson. I appreciate what he tried to do against Florida State, and he got injured and what have you. And props to that young man. He's been nothing but a team guy and the nicest of nicest and bestest of bestest. But you just listen. You gotta call it what it is. He wasn't good enough to be, the starting quarterback at the University of Miami. Judd certainly, not ready, if ever, is going to be the starting quarterback at the University of Miami. Luke Nickel, obviously, you don't want to put a freshman in that position. You had to go out into the portal. And if you're going to go into the portal, you might as well get the best guy available. And that's what they did in Carson Beck. So I agree with that. He comes in with the elbow injury, the UCL injury. From what we're hearing, he if a miracle happens, you may see him throw in the spring, but he will definitely be ready for off-season workouts and fall camp. So the injury is not something really to worry about. And
also, just really quickly on the injury point, I've heard and seen so many people get this wrong, and I just want to clarify it. So the UCL is the ulnar collateral ligament inside of your elbow. So going down from your pinky, that's where that is.
Right.
It is the same ligament as Tommy John surgery for baseball players. That's when it's completely torn and then it is replaced. The throwing motion in football is similar but different to baseball, and his injury also was similar but different. It was a repair, not a replacement. And the replacement is the one that has the 12, 14-month time, and the repair has a shorter time. It's the same injury Brock Purdy suffered a couple of years ago in the playoffs, and then, ended up coming back the next season. So this is an injury like that one, but it happened a full almost 2 months earlier in just the chronology of things. And it's that injury and rehab with Brock Purdy that needs to be the parallel, not something like your favorite baseball pitcher who, blew out their elbow, had to go get the, whatever ligament from a cadaver inserted into their arm and then take 14 months for recovery. So I just wanted to clarify that's what the injury is and the way that it worked or is working in the Carson Beck case. Not
to get too down in the weeds, but the baseball pitching throwing motion, especially with different arm angles, different pitches, that is not something the human body was really meant to do at the force and speeds that we're doing it now, which is why everyone's having Tommy John. The football throwing motion is completely different. Yes, it is same, could be the same arm, and yes, you're moving your arm forward, but it's not the same stresses and pressures on that ligament that throwing a baseball is, which is why, not every NFL quarterback has had Tommy John surgery, if any, because it's not the same thing. That's neither here nor there. Cam, Carson Beck adding him to the roster is a no doubter. But I do have a couple of questions that I want to get into. So feel free to tackle whichever one you want here. One, the idea that we're just going to play mercenary every year and get a guy that has 1 year of eligibility left, and we're going to keep doing this and not be able to groom our guy to be the quarterback. And that, of course, that takes into account the portal and NIL and everything else that's different now than it used to be when a quarterback can come in and sit on the bench and then be your guy for 2 years and blah, blah, blah. And the other part is, not afforded the same talent necessarily that we know of, proven wise, at wide receiver that Cam Ward was. Obviously, you have some guys you believe in. You brought in C.J. Daniels. You hope Jojo Trader turns into a great one and what have you. But it's not the same proven commodities or kind of confidence level you had in the receiving core that Cam Ward had. So tackle either one of those whenever you want.
I'm going to go both and in reverse order. Number one, there is great talent in the receiving group, but not the proven talent. Like, we don't have anybody who's going to break the records this year for receptions and receiving yards in a career like Xavier Restrepo did. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have that guy who's like surely at the top of the rotation. So there is talent. It does need to be developed. And, they are stepping into larger roles. And I just think that's a fact. You bring in the tight end from Tulane, Alex Bowman. You bring in Luke Nichols' brother as a blocking tight end, so you get a Cam McCormick, replacement. Also, and family affair, bringing in a brother. We've already done that with the Mawanoa brothers. Like, we've seen that kind of a thing. That's all good and great, but there will need to be definite growth and development. So Kevin Beard, the receivers coach, has his work cut out for him, but I believe that he'll be able to rise to that occasion. In terms of always going and being a mercenary squad at quarterback, I think what that really does is highlight the deficiencies in recruiting that previously existed, right? I think now that you have a Luke Nickel, that's someone you're really going to be pushing for next year as a redshirt freshman. Is 25. In the 26 season as a redshirt freshman, you're really going to be pushing for him to be the starter. Or maybe in his fourth year, then maybe Emory can be a little bit of a stopgap kind of a thing by then. Judd Anderson was like in high school before he went to football full time. This is a guy who averaged like 20 and 14 on the basketball court. Like, he's a legit 6'7", almost 6'8". So he's an athletic dude. Is he able to put it together in his third year in 26? Maybe. But I really think because we did not have in the building the guy that we needed, we had to go outside. And now I think with getting a Luke Nickel and then having Darion Coleman from Orlando Jones in this recruiting class behind him, right? Now you're starting to see Miami actually get the requisite level of talent in the quarterback room that you need. So, and that is a thing that can curtail the necessity to be a mercenary squad. And it's different in every place, right? But Texas is not necessarily going and getting a mercenary because they have Arch Manning. They have a guy already there. Miami was bereft of that kind of talent. So I think when you finally get a Luke Nickel, when you get a Darion Coleman, if he sticks, or a player of that ilk in the next class, and the next class, and the next class, finally, then you'll have the ability to focus inward more than outward in terms of who's going to be your starting quarterback.
I think the other thing, and they talked to Mario about this in the presser before Hetherman spoke, which is, the fact that Cam Ward in back-to-back years, it's Cam Ward, it's Carson Beck, the two arguably, biggest gets in the portal, that kind of shines the light on, hey, Miami is the destination. It could make its way to other positions, right? If there's a receiver that wants to come down here for a year, if there's a running back or whatever the University of Miami needs, people are going to look at the University of Miami and say, hey, they've got a great place to go. They've got the talent. They've got the coaching. I'm going to get to where I need to be. Plus, their collective, the Canes Connection, has it together and able to get me the NIL deal that we need. And there's no issues. We don't have any Jaden Rashada situations here or Florida State with, the basketball team suing Leonard Hamilton. That's not going on here at the University of Miami. We are buttoned up as it goes to NIL. So I think that all helps in attracting talent down to the U.
Absolutely, it does. And if you even extend it out further, like into the rear view, De'Aaron King, he, famously, he was one of the first players who was like, played my 4 games, I'm out, I'm going to redshirt, I'm going to transfer somewhere else. Where did he come? The U. Right. If you look at offensive line, Zach Carpenter was your center last year. Sorry, my phone is buzzing over here. If you
heard that,
guys, Matt Lee, who's in the league the year before. You know what I mean? Francis or Kiko Mawinoa at linebacker. I know that he regressed a little bit last year, but everybody on defense did. But he's a guy who came on down and could have went anywhere. Akeem Mesidor, who's going to be back for his 6th year. He could have went everywhere. Tyreek Stevenson, who's from here, went to Georgia, came back, and was a 2nd-round NFL draft pick. And was second team all rookie just because Tyreek Woolen and the other one were incredible, and Sauce Gardner were incredible corners. And like, if you didn't have guys who were pushing for all pro as rookies last year, he would have been first team all rookie. You know what I mean? So you can look literally at every level of the team. Borregales, the older brother, even so, you know, even if you want to look at kicker and punter guys, Miami's been a transfer destination since the portal's been in place. And so, yeah, now you've gotten the best quarterback that money could buy in the portal 3 years out of 5. And then these other guys as well. Yeah, no, things are going in the direction they need to. You know, hopefully Carson Beck, you know, the recovery will be, you know, back, so he'll be looking like his normal self. Hopefully we'll get rid of those 3 turnover games that he had last year. I mean, he had, 12 turnovers in 5 games, and it was 3 games of 3 interceptions, a game of 2, and then like a random 1 against Mississippi or Ole Miss. But, you know, 11 turnovers in 4 games. That's unsustainable. Like, you cannot have that.
He also didn't
turn the ball over.
Right, but he also didn't have great protection at times. Like it, like, you know, like he.
And the most drops in America.
Right, and the most drops in America. So, like, you know, if your guys are dropping balls, now you're trying to force things. If you're getting bad protection, now you're not having the windows that you want to throw into because you're under duress. All of this stuff factors into it. We're not making excuses, but those are reasons, and we'll see how he factors into Shannon Dawson's offense. Before we get out of here, Cam, I don't know what to do about Monday night. I don't know what to do about Monday night. It is a national championship game that features one team I hate versus another team I hate. The only thing that would make it worse is if there was a third team involved, and that was the Gators. I don't know how you could have a 3-team championship, but that would make it worse. Ohio State and Notre Dame. The only thing I will say about, as hard as it is to look at Al Golden with, and by the way, Mike Ryan on the Lebertard Show brought this up, like Al Golden doesn't look like Al Golden anymore. It's between the glasses. He looks more rugged. His cheeks are more rosy from being in South Bend. So it doesn't even look like the same guy that was here in a shirt and tie. So whatever. I will say this, and dare I say this, and don't curse me out for saying this. Lord. This Notre Dame team is kind of likable. Maybe it's a Marcus Freeman thing. I don't know what it is. They're kind of, as much as I could ever like a Notre Dame team, they're kind of likable.
I guess so, but you know, again, as a native Michigander who grew up as a Michigan Wolverines fan, with family members who went and are Michigan men, you know what I mean?
Right.
This is like literally my worst nightmare. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I hate Florida so much that I mean,
exactly.
Would be, like, I think they're on par with Notre Dame, but like, this is like little Cam growing up, like the one who went to Michigan Stadium and like played 3-on-3 tournaments in Chrysler Arena and like in all that stuff. This vexes my spirit. I actually tweeted it out after Quinn Ewers fumbled that ball in the semifinals and they returned, you know, Buddy returned it. The one who was crying after Michigan planted the flag on them again in their barn, by the way. I said, I'm not watching this game because my college football season is over. It's crazy to me that they didn't have a championship game. It's crazy they didn't crown a national championship, national champion this year. I'm not watching a second of it. No, it hurts my heart to even talk about it, Brian. I can't do it. I can't like, hey, and if it's a thing, like I have shows on Netflix I can get caught up on. You know, I can deep clean my kitchen. You know, like there's lots of things I can do with my time on Monday night, and I will do any of those things other than watch this game because my spirit can't take it. I can't do it.
Yeah. I will be at my parents' in Boston. My dad has already said, "Oh, we're gonna watch the game Monday night, right?" I'm like, I guess we are. So I think I'll have to watch it, and I don't know. I'm just gonna again root for the lights to go out or something. I can't.
Look, and I'll put it to you like this because I do watch the game every year. You know, Michigan and Ohio State. If I decide to watch it and if it starts looking like the Oregon Ohio State semi or quarterfinal game, click, and I will. I have and will turn that game off.
I will not
watch it, but I probably won't.
Yeah, I will not sit through a blowout. That's not going to happen. 9.5 points is a huge spread. I don't know what to make of that. I know Notre Dame's injured. It's been a long season. That's another thing, and we'll get into this down the road. The length of the college football season being increased is a new thing to all of these athletes who are finding, hey, what is life like in the NFL? Everyone gets hurt. Everyone sits out a couple of games because it is a long season. It is not easy to play this many games. So we will talk about that down the road. Cam, it is always a pleasure, my friend. Hey, go read Cam's stuff at State of the U. Go do it right now. Like, as soon as you hit pause or stop or whatever, don't let it go to the next video. Don't let it go to the next podcast. Go to stateoftheu.com and read up on all the U stuff. And also follow Cam on X at Underwood Sports. You can follow me at Miami Radio Beast. We will see you next time on the Real Ones Canes podcast. Peace.